Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise to join in this grievance debate. And, Mr Speaker, I grieve for the people of rural and regional Victoria, but in particular the people of East Gippsland. And I will provide a number of examples why I grieve for the people of rural and regional Victoria, Mr Speaker. The first is the recent sole traders package that was announced with an enormous amount of fanfare and gusto, but left so many people ineligible. The previous speaker just touched on the fact that there'll be 30,000 recipients of this. That is less than 10% of sole traders, Mr Speaker. To stand here and champion that figure and be proud of it, you are every 10 on the scrap heap. A dermal therapist in Bairnsdale by the name of Demi has been really struggling for a number of months, been in very close contact with our office, trying to seek the supports which she's been invariably ineligible for with every step that's come out. She was in a commercial lease and she had to give up that commercial lease to work from home because she could no longer afford to pay it. Quite simply. Now, with the latest round of supports that have come out, without a commercial lease, you're ineligible. She's ineligible again. How, in anyone's language, Mr Speaker, can that possibly be deemed to be fair? The example was given in question time about the dog groomers. Again, unfair. If you work from home, if you're mobile in your business, you simply don't get it. Many personal trainers, beauty therapists, mobile pet groomers, even coffee van operators who work on the road. Fab, who comes to our office and gives us a coffee but is really battling because of the downturn in business. He's not eligible. Sole traders are on their knees, and it is almost as though this government has sat down behind closed doors and thought, gee whiz, how can we tighten this so it doesn't cost us too much? We can't help too many out because it's going to cost us too much. That's how it appears from the outside looking in. We're not in this position, Speaker, because of bad luck, as many people have pointed out in their previous speeches. We're here in this horrible situation with business on its knees all around rural and regional Victoria because hotel quarantine was stuffed up. And that's been made crystal clear in the latest inquiry, where a number of people from different agencies, different departments, different specialist backgrounds have all pointed to the fact that over 99% of infections came out of that debacle. Mr Speaker, I want to move on to business restrictions. Again, much fanfare was announced that we're going to open businesses in rural and regional Victoria. You can now have 20 patrons in 2 groups of 10 in your pubs and clubs. So while everyone was holding on, I can tell you, the Bairnsdale RSL won't be open this weekend because it's not viable for them. They can't operate with only serving 20 meals a night, so none of their staff will be employed. The Bairnsdale Bowls Club isn't opening. The Bairnsdale Club itself isn't opening. The Lakes Entrance Bowls Club, and on and on and on and on it goes, because they're not viable. And what they're asking, Mr Speaker, I'll tell you what they're asking. They're saying when we were in this position last time, we were allowed 20 people per room. The bigger establishments were serving 60 meals a night. The ones that are a bit smaller were serving 40 meals a night, and they had their staff on. And you know what they did, Mr Speaker? They showed us they can make it work. They managed it well. The oversight was excellent. They got runs on the board. We never had an outbreak at all, at any stage whatsoever. And they're asking why, when we've showed we can do it, aren't we back there now? And they're asking, the last time we did it, masks weren't mandatory. That's another safety level that we have. Travel from Melbourne was allowed. We've now got restrictions in place on Melbourne travel, and we've also got beefed up checking points at those corridors into country areas. There are 3 areas now where we're safer. They did it well last time, but now they still can't open. So the fanfare that was announced last week about opening up rural and regional Victoria, it hasn't. It's okay for some cafes that can seat 10, but our bigger establishments simply cannot open. Others with outdoor areas that can cater for 50 as is allowed. Mr Speaker, I'd like to see you sitting on the balcony at the Meetung pub at 6 o'clock tonight, and you'd probably love to be there, but I tell you what, you'd have your 3rd jumper on, because that's how cold it gets. And I've had publicans coming to me from Marlow and Meetung in the last couple of days, and others, but I'll cite these 2 examples because they've got massive outdoor areas. But they say to me, Bully, what can we do next weekend? We'll book in a group Friday night, we'll book them in Saturday night, we'll book in a heap Sunday night, and we'll order in the food and we'll do our staffing rosters. But when the weather turns bad on Friday afternoon, what do? Because the cancellations are going to come in. They say we cannot function based on weather. We need more security. If we were allowed to have diners inside to a reasonable level, we would have something for our staff to do. But it just doesn't work. It's not January or February. Mr Speaker, I want to talk about 2 sectors amongst many that are suffering. We're going to be in a situation in a couple of weeks where we're going to have 25 kids sitting in a classroom, and the bell's going to go at 3:30. And those kids will walk out of that classroom or get picked up by mum and dad, and they can't get dropped off at their dance class with less students in a much bigger area that's much safer to do a dance class. Those dance classes haven't been eligible for a lot of the supports that have come out. The dollar amount that they are down through this period is extraordinary. Why can't, if we can have kids at school, can't we have kids a block away in a dance class, less confined, have all the restrictions in place? It just makes no sense. Gymnasiums. Are they expected to cart all their machinery out onto the footpath every night? Cart it back in every night? That's for those who have the space to be able to take their equipment outside. Most don't. Mr Speaker, let's have the restrictions in place on how many people can be in these businesses. Let's have the social distancing. Let's have the hygiene rules. Let's clean the equipment after every time somebody's used it. But we've got to allow these businesses to breathe, because the restrictions in place that say they can open, they can't. So we can't say they can open when they can't. The licence debacle in rural and regional Victoria. I've got one young girl who lives in a little township called Bryagalong. She's got a job in Sale, 30 kilometres away in Sale. Now they say, in exceptional circumstances you can get an exemption. She's been refused her exemption twice. Her dad has to pick her up and take her to work, then pick her up and bring her home. He's got his own business that involves travel. Now, if she isn't eligible for an exemption and that reason isn't good enough, I'm open to someone to tell me what is. I spoke to a young man 2 days ago who has been lucky enough to get a job at McDonald's. 6 kilometres away from his home. Sorry, can't get your licence. Now, the stupidity of this is we can all sit in an office in the country and work, but for some reason a young person can't sit inside in front of a computer in Vic Roads and do his licence test. Why not? Because a decision's been made in Melbourne that we're going to ban L-plate licence testing unless you get a special exemption. It is stupidity at its best. We can have 3 people in a car going to work from different households if they're going to work, but we can't have 3 people in a car to do a probationary test. Why not? We've got a massive backlog. We don't have the public transport, as the member for South West Coast said, that city folk have. We need to be able to function. These special exemptions, there's not too many cases in country Victoria where it's not non-essential to get your licence. You need it to get a job. You need your licence to apply for a job, Mr Speaker. They need their licences. The next one I want to talk about, why I agree for the people of rural and regional Victoria, is obtaining information from this government. With each step that comes out, there's so many grey areas, so many confusing areas, it's impossible to navigate. And things change. I mean, every decision's meant to be based on medical advice, but within an hour, farmers' markets changed, fishing changed, boating changed, attendance in maternity wards changed, having your close personal partner around changed. So many things change based on medical advice. But anyway, that's not my point. There's one of many areas I could choose, but my electorate office was advised by the Chief Health Officer himself, nonetheless, to contact the COVID directions team. They will give you your answer that you need for your business. We had a business that needed to know if they could remain open or whether they had to close. So we contacted the directions office, and 7 weeks later we got a letter back saying the business can stay open. That's a cracking system, isn't it, in a pandemic? 7 weeks when you contact the COVID directions team. We had another one on August the 4th. Another business wanted information. Speaker, we're waiting, August the 4th. It's mid-September. We haven't had a response. What a cracking support team that is. You know, it's just incredible. It's like it's a joke. Speaker, I stood up here before and mentioned to you a dozen questions on notice overdue, a lot of them relating to bushfire recovery, a lot of them relating to important matters. Some go back to last year. Adjournments, constituency questions, questions on notice. We don't get answers. I would encourage you, Mr Speaker, to light a fire under those ministers that are responsible. The last one I want to talk about, Mr Speaker, before I finish, is about bushfire recovery. Now,
well, a point of order, the Minister.
On a point of order, Speaker, I remember putting in questions and waiting 2 or 3 years for answers, so it'd have to be a bushfire under your lot, mate.
There's no point of order. The member for Gippsland.
And you probably whinged about it, and you probably whinged about it too. What a stupid point of order. Mr Speaker, bushfire recovery destroyed a lot of our public areas. The bushfire was 9 months ago. There's a lot of fanfare about we're going to be there, we're going to walk with you, we're going to support you, we're going to get you back on your feet. Well, now we can take tourists this weekend, and our camp park facilities haven't been fixed 9 months later. Some tenders went out a fortnight ago. We had to be open for business. We've been through drought, we've been through fire, we've been through COVID. One job, get our camp parks open so we can have people in our area. They can enjoy our facilities and they can book out a camping area and stay. Cape Conran, partially opened. I believe because the tree surveys haven't been done after the fire to see if the branch is going to drop on anyone. What have we been doing for 9 months, for goodness sake? Right along that Crower-Jingalong National Park, all of those beautiful little camp areas. Bits and pieces open, infrastructure that was burnt 9 months ago not fixed, tenders still going out. It is a disgrace. Some of the infrastructure isn't earmarked to be fixed until next year. I could imagine if it was a walking path on the Yarra River, it would have been fixed in 2 weeks. Now, if you're going to come down and say you're going to walk with us, you're going to help us recover, you're going to be with us and stand with us and get us back on our feet, you actually have to do something. You can't just sit on your hands. Speaker, they are the reasons why I grieve for the people of rural and regional Victoria, and indeed most importantly, the people of East Gippsland.